Rearing of sheep and goats for the sustainable livelihood of the pastoralist in India. So basically, my presentation would be more of sharing my own experience of working with the pastoralist communities from Gujarat to Jammu and Kashmir, and sharing the best practices of the pastoralist and the traditional livestock knowledge that has been documented by Seva. So these two pictures are from the exhibition that we had conducted. And I'm also currently working as a team leader in the documentation process of regional IYRP support group of South Asia based in Jammu. And now that we have the pastoral livestock census coming up, I'm also the Union Territory representative for Jammu and Kashmir. So I'm sure people, those who have been studying geography books or the social sciences books or the SST books, or maybe as a parent when you're teaching your kid about pastoralism, transhumance, nomadism, migration. So these are not very new concepts, but yes, these are very state-specific subjects. So I can say that transhumance is a unique geospatial phenomenon of seasonal migration by the pastoralists. So when I talk about pastoralists, they are the group of livestock keepers or herdsmen who move with the livestock from one place to another in search of feed and fodder and water resources. So basically, if we look at these four terms, I can say that these are not just specific to just the Himalayan region or the desert areas of Rajasthan and Gujarat or the Deccan Plateau, but we have around 22 states where there are small groups of nomadic herders or livestock keepers who, even if do not travel a very long distance, but still travel some distance to make their livelihood meet ends. So why do we need pastoralism is because there are 1 billion animals which are being herded by the pastoralist, and I can say that they are basically meeting the UN Sustainable Development Goals towards 2030 because they are providing us a solution for food, health, for employment. We have a sustainable development goal for energy, also for climate. They're also protecting the rangeland health by improving the soil fertility through the manure being deposited by this particular livestock. They're conserving the biodiversity, the forest fires, and also helping in the carbon sequestration. So basically, we can say they are keeping the food security in the highlands, in the dry lands, in the wetlands where the crop production is very difficult, or where there is zero water, or you can say there is water poverty in those areas. Now, if we look at the animal diversity in a country, you will see that the population of cattle, goat, and sheep are in this particular picture where we are the highest in a cattle population. Whatever activity towards livelihood we are doing, we are naturally covering the sustainable development goals. And when I talk about the pastoralist, I see that they are aligning to no poverty because they are, I can say that 3% of the GDP is coming from the pastoralist livestock system. And if we look at the livelihood that is being provided, that is in the form of milk or in the form of meat or in the wool, we are also putting an end to hunger. So they are also covering zero hunger. Now talking about gender equality, because if you see that women are the custodians of the livestock, so they are also covering the gender equality aspect of the pastoralism. Now, talking about the different types of climate change that is taking place, these 13 climate action in the Sustainable Development Goal number 13 is also being covered by them. And naturally, when there is life on the land, we need to protect the rangelands or the wastelands or the pasture lands so that this particular livestock can meet their ends. Now, talking about the pastoralism in India, as I said that there are Himalayan pastoralists who are covered over Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh, few parts of Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. So you will basically see the Gujjar and Bakarwal and the Chopan community in Jammu and Kashmir. Bangujas in Uttarakhand, Gaddi and Sipi in Himachal Pradesh, and Changpa, you will see them in Leh Ladakh, and Sherpa and Brokpa, you will find, and Rai, Guru, you will all find them in Sikkim and in Arunachal Pradesh. So when I'm talking about this particular migration, so this is the difference between the migration in the Himalayan region and the western part of our country is that it is from the lowland to the highland, in the sense that whenever there is an expectation of a snowfall, in that case the pastoralists move from higher ranges of the mountains of the Himalayas. For example, you can say Pir Panjal area, they'll be coming down to lowland region somewhere near Jammu, which are located in the plains. And these particular type of communities, they are mainly into sheep and goat and yak herding. They're also into interstate migration. For example, they move to even Himachal, they move to Punjab, the pastoralists from Jammu and Kashmir. But there's also intrastate migration, in the sense they move within the districts. Now coming to the western part of India, where you will see the annual horizontal movement, that is either the Rabadis or the Maldharis or the Bharwad community or the Raika community of Rajasthan or the Gavli from Maharashtra or Dhangar from Maharashtra, they will be moving from, I can say they can move from Gujarat, they will be moving towards Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, and far towards Chhattisgarh even also. And these are basically moving with large ruminants because of the topography, because cow and buffalo are heavy, large ruminants, and it is easy for them to move along with the camel and sheep and goat herds also. Here, as I spoke, they are also again into interstate migration, and also some of them, I can say, intrastate migration. For example, some of the Maldharis, they move from Kutch region towards Surendranagar area, or also towards near Nal Sarovar, somewhere near Ahmedabad region, or mostly towards the southern part of the country. Now, talking about the Deccan Plateau pastoralists who are spread across Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu, they are also mainly sheep, goat, and buffalo and cow keepers. And these particular communities like Dhangar, those who are sheep, Kanet, the Kuruma, the Lambada, the Golas, few of them are also in uh, Andhra, and there is a Kola community which is in Odisha, and Konar which is in the Madhumalai region of Tamil Nadu. This again is also into seasonal migration within the district and also outside the district. Now, this is a picture that we had taken during our field study when we had a project which was funded by Amul. And here we were trying to see the mitigation strategies of how these mitigation strategies will be acting against climate change, and also that will help to practice the traditional animal husbandry practices in the Kutch district in Gujarat. So if you see that, Maldharis from Kutch, they actually have migrated to, as I said, to different places like in Nal Sarovar towards Patan in North Gujarat, and Surendranagar area in the Saurashtra region in Maharashtra and Chhattisgarh in search of food and fodder. And these are basically the nomadic herdsmen in Gujarat. So now this is I can say Kutch is the largest district in the country. And if you see, it has a very typical topography, in the sense it has seasonal wetlands. When it is raining, now you see there is flood in this particular area, and it is very climatically, it's a very vulnerable climatic zone which is there in Kutch, because you will also see there is a little run of Kutch and greater run of Kutch. Also, along with that, it is being bounded by the saline waters, yet there is white desert towards the greater run of Kutch. So, the climatic condition over here is quite little different from the mainland. Now, these were the areas where we had conducted our study. So, we had taken, these are the 5, 6 talukas that we had taken where we conducted our study, which was in Rapar, Bachau, Anjar, Bhuj, and Nakhatrana. And during our field studies, we visited the pastoralists who were there in the Rapa region. So these are the pictures from the Rapa region where we went on door to door in collaboration with Marag. That is an NGO which is particularly working at the grassroots level with the Rabadi Maldharis in Kutch. That is Maldhari Rural Action Group. And this is my interaction with the Maldhari women. We must know that the Maldhari women are so skilled with the kind of traditional artwork they carry from generations and generations. Yet the sad part is that there's no market linkage to put their particular traditional handicraft, which is naturally can become an alternate livelihood for them apart from the livestock keeping. So this was my interaction with the women who were in the last bordering villages of Kutch in Gujarat. So this is where we and my research team, we went on to meet the senior lot or the senior aged men of the community, where we were trying to understand the uh, problem that is there in finding out the challenges that has been faced whenever there is seasonal migration. And this was a participatory research approach where we had prepared some questionnaire, and we had a member from Marag who was translating for us, because the women here were mostly speaking Kutchi or Sindhi language. So of course I can understand Gujarati to some extent, but the interaction with them was very, very enriching for me. For a change coming from Odisha, the interaction was something that I had not expected, and it was very life-changing for me. Now, if you look at, in Kutch, there is Sarhad Dairy and there is Mahi milk producer. So in this particular place, what you see is that there are these places, they are collecting the milk. So this is a milk collecting center. So this was our visit during the evening hours of the day. So the people over there, they are pouring milk early in the morning and also in the evening hours. So this is the milk collecting center where people had come down to pour the milk, but sadly there are no dairy cooperatives for sheep and milk goat. So this is one aspect that we'll be covering little later now. And this is in the Rapar region, far in the far border in near India, Pakistan, where these are into extensive grazing. So the herders that you can see standing next to me are the herders, and the other people are the youth pastoralists who are also the guardsmen when the sheep and the goat move migrate through the long distances. So this is a discussion where we were having it with the village panchayat of this particular village. The lady you can see is the daughter of the panchayat, and she is a little learned lady where we could speak to them about the community. You can also see a camel behind, because this is a this is a very normal place where people come down, they sit and discuss, and animals also rest whenever there is a migration during their migration process. So this is our interaction where how the herder had taken us to the place where how he protects the sheep in the night hours whenever he's migrating. So you can see a net behind where he puts all the particular sheep and goat in this particular place, and then how it is protecting its herd from the predators and also from theft or from the loss. So I was offered a bowl of, goat milk, and it was really good. For a change, it was really good. And I think they prepared a tea out of that. So these are the breeds that is usually herded by the Maldhari groups. These are the Patanwadi breed, Kutchi breed, the Marwadi breed, the Dumas, and the Kutchi breed of goats are usually herded by these Maldhari communities. Now, if you look at the indigenous traditional knowledge that has been developed by these Maldharis, it is basically to achieve the economic efficiency without affecting their sustainability for the livestock pastoral system. And whenever the Maldaris are also not very dependent on the medicines from the veterinarians, they themselves, of course, are so acquainted treating their livestock for measles, emaciation or weakness, or debilitated conditions, or the food sepsis, or the foot rot, or for the fracture, that they themselves are into healing processes of the livestock. They, of course, whenever they're traveling a long distance, they try to attend the nearby camps. But whenever they're traveling a very long distance, and there's no veterinary hospital nearby, they themselves are into the traditional healing processes. Now, during our study, we saw that, around 59% of the Maldharis were traveling for 5 to 8 months. For example, you will find the Maldharis going to other places before, after the onset of the summer. Before the onset of the summer, they keep traveling from they're traveling from April, and they move and move, and after they come back within 4 months, somewhere near, you will find them coming back to their village near Janmashtami time, and also somewhere during Diwali. But after some time, when there is extreme winter, then they again come back to their own place, not in search of feed and fodder. Now, there are 9 to 10 months, there are 4% from the particular villages in Anjar and Rapar, they were for 9 to 10 months migration, seasonal migration. Now, if you see, since buffalo and cow are large ruminants, mostly we saw that the animals that were taken during migration were sheep and goat, along with camels. So this is for our field visit at Sarhad Dairy, which is a subsidiary of Amul or GCMMF. We also went down to meet the district development officer in the NABARD office, which is in Bhuj. So we try to understand the different policies that can accommodate the pastoralist while they're traveling, because there are many challenges that is suffered by the pastoralist community whenever they are moving. And as you know that Sarhad Dairy has done a wonderful job in creating and marketing of the camel milk. But sadly, there are very, very few camels that are left in Kutch region. And the Kharai camels that eat and survive on the salty mangroves, which is in the Gulf of the Kutch, and that is how they are able to produce milk. And that milk, if you just have a taste of camel milk, it is little bit, you might feel a little salty, and it is only because they are into extensive grazing. And no camel in Gujarat, you will see, is into this particular type of stall feeding. It's very, very rare to see camels in these areas, or herded by the Maldharis who are into stall feeding. So the camel milk, when it was in huge amount from the Maldharis, which was taken up by the camel cooperatives or the camel milk collection centers in as far as in Nakhatrana and in Bachau region. So Amul, it created two camel milk cooperatives in this particular area. And that was a huge relief for the pastoralists who were into camel milk production. And Amul also ensured to send this particular camel pastoralist into training programs through NRC on camels in Bikaner, and that is how some of them were even awarded prizes for good milk production, efficient good milk production system. So along with that, in those areas, some Maldaris have also migrated with sheep and goat near Nal Sarovar. Now, Nal Sarovar, if you know, it is located near Ahmedabad in the Sanand block of Gujarat. Now, I'll share an experience with these women that you find in the pictures. So we went to Nal Sarovar because it is a bird sanctuary, wildlife sanctuary. And they're migratory birds. They come in the winter somewhere around, October, November, December till January, February. And it turns into a very tourist place, because other time it is just the grasses and very low level of water. So these Maldharis, for alternate livelihood, what they have done, they have settled around the Nal Sarovar Lake. From there, their sheep and goat and buffaloes are dependent on the pasture and the grasses and the water from the Nal Sarovar Lake. And these women themselves have turned themselves into hospitality and tourism, in the sense that what they are doing. So any tourist who comes to this place, they are feeding people with their own traditional food, that the particular Saurashtra food. And these Maldharis. They are also showcasing their traditional outfit, and through that they're able to manage to make some money, alternate from for their alternate livelihood. And their sons have become into fishing in the Nal Sarovar, and some of them have become the boat riders, guides in this particular area. As you can see, the meal that was prepared, by these women, and these particular areas are also being used for boating. So they'll tell you that they'll be taking you 1 hour in this particular area for boating, for bird watching. And the women, as you can see, they're dependent on this particular area of Nal Sarovar for their livelihood. Now, when we were doing a project, one of our we had three, four objectives, out of which our main objective, I can say the important objective was to create a livelihood for them. So whenever we made a field visit to their villages in Anjar and Rapar, the women that you see in the pictures, they had come, we had invited them to Irma. So Navratri is a very bigger festival in Gujarat, and we felt that no better platform to invite the Maldhari women with with the Navratri outfits to put an exhibition, so that they can earn their livelihood also. And these platforms will also have people with different tastes, so that women are also able to understand the kind of market they will be able to get when once they start selling their own products. So it was a very unique approach from our end to provide a platform to these women who are into the making of different kinds of traditional outfits. And it was attended by a lot of people, since Anand is a small town. So you have good educational institutes, and milk industry professionals had also come. It was attended by a lot of people from NDDB, Amol, and staff from IRMA, from IDMC, NCDFI. So it gave a good exposure and a good confidence. And I'm happy to report that we have Lakshmi Ben Rabari, who has come up with a brand called Pehnava. So I'm currently in touch with her. So even if our project is over there, so we ensured that she keeps, continuing, and this particular work becomes sustainable. So if we look at the pastoral entrepreneurship from Gujarat, there is also Panchal Diary. So whenever anybody gets a chance to visit Surendranagar in the Saurashtra region, in Saila, you must visit Panchal Dairy, because it is a dairy that has been started by the pastoralists themselves, which prepares artisanal and pastoral cheese from goat and sheep, and instead they are for greater market, they are selling their product somewhere in Chennai. Now, if you look at some of the movies, you will also find that there's Pabi Ben Rabadi. I'm sure you would have seen her in KBC, and also you would have seen her in documentaries where her story has been covered, and she is from Anjar village. So if you just go to this particular website, pabiben.com, you will be able to find the textile work that has been done by her. It's beautiful, and it has gone global, worldwide. So there are LLDC music festivals which are there in Bhujan Kutch, the national trade fairs and exhibitions, and the traditional food festivals that happens. So, these all platforms, they give the pastoralists for entrepreneurship, even if they are in the Gujarat region, but they're able to showcase their talent worldwide and across India. So this is the exhibition in IRMA, where we had in total 7 to 8 women who had come up with these stuffs, and even after they left, we demand on demand they were able to provide us some of the products. Now, this was talking about my experience from Gujarat with the working with the Maldaris in Gujarat was that. Now I'll come to my current location where I'm based in Jammu. So how we are working with the Gujar and Bakarwal communities in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, if you know that Jammu and Kashmir has become a union territory, and it has two provinces. One is Jammu province and the other one is Kashmir province. So you have 10 districts each. So total 20 districts in Jammu and Kashmir, and it's a very larger area to cover. But interestingly, this particular union territory has the world's largest migratory or transhuman population. So it is like around 6.12 lakhs population. So the main communities that are working here are the Gujar, Bakarwal, Chopan, Gadi, and Sipi. And if you look that Gujar as the cow and buffalo keepers, these are basically the milk producers. And Bakarwal are the sheep and goat herdsmen. Those are basically the meat producers. And you can say the wool producers also. So the particular breeds that are maintained by these people in Jammu and Kashmir are basically the wool type sheep breeds, you know. And as you know, we have all studied in our LPM, is that these are basically the Gaddi, Rampur Bushehr, which is also used for meat. Now, these are the Gaddi, the Bakarwal, the Punchi, the Karna, the Gurej. These are actually the carpet wool. These are for the carpet wool. And the Kashmiri Merino, it is for the apparel wool. And Pashmina goat is, as you know, the Pashmina shawls that are available. So it all comes from here. So these are the breeds you can see, the Bakarwal sheep and Gurej sheep. So, you know, and the Kashmiri Merino. But I will also inform you that there's a Bakarwal dog breed also. So when this particular community moves from one place to another, along with the sheep and goat, they also have a dog that guards them. So that is one breed that is yet to be documented, and that is a very sturdy breed that is found in the western Himalayas of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, this is the Basoli Pashmina shawl. So, Basoli is a place in the Jammu region, and this is an exhibit. This is a exhibition of the products which is done by NABARD, and NABARD supports a lot of livelihood products and also some artistic products that is made by the women on this of this region. Now, as I was saying, you can see the Bakarwal breed of the dog, which is being carried. And these are the Bakarwal community that are walking from one place to another with their, in the Gujarat region, you will see the camel. And here the camel, which carries the luggage, I can say the luggage of the people while moving from one place to another. Here you will find horses that carries the entire kitchen items, the clothes that the people take with them while migrating from one place to another. So the challenges of this particular community is that, you know, there is unpredictable weather in the Western Himalayas. And naturally, there is lack of preparation. So these days, what has happened is that with the construction that is happening and the migratory routes have also disrupted. So the roads that was being taken by these particular communities have been disrupted because of, you know, deforestation, construction. So this is a challenge because the typical roads or the migratory routes that you carry, once it is disrupted, it takes time for you to travel through another route because it is very unknown, and that too along with 10 to 100 to 150 livestock herd along with you. And naturally there is man wildlife conflict, where there is every chance of being attacked by a wildlife while walking in the deep forest. So, but the impact of climate change on this particular pastoralist communities is that, there is delay in migration. So naturally, when there is delay in migration, there is problem for feed and fodder and water resources in this region. And as I said, when there is change in the migration routes, the livestock movement becomes difficult. Now, I am not sure if a lot of people would have heard about animal intelligence. So this particular herds that is being maintained by the pastoralist, when they have been living with their masters or the herd or the owners, they listen to them, and that is how is they develop the animals develop the animal intelligence. So in those cases, when there is change in migration, there is a problem for them to adjust in different in the variable climate conditions. And there is also livestock mortality. There is every possibility that the animal gets very tired, it becomes debilitated. And some of the breeds have also extincted because of the extreme climate changes that has taken in the Western Himalayas. With the changing grazing patterns also, and water availability naturally going down in these areas, the communities have faced a lot of problem for maintaining their livestock. Now, if we look at the ethno-veterinary practices of the pastoralist community here, naturally food rot is a bigger problem because the sheep and goat and the horses are walking in from the lower pasture region to higher pasture region in the mountainous terrains. So there are herbs like Put, Google, Raymond, Ratan Jot. So these are the names of the local, Dogri and Kashmiri herbs that is used by this particular Gujar and Bakarwal community. Jalzadi, Han, Hula, Neera and Chora, Jogi, Padsa to cure the animals. But with the efforts of the dairy cooperatives in Jammu and Kashmir, so there's dairy cooperative is Snowcap. It is it is a state dairy cooperative in Jammu and Kashmir. So there are more than 500 milk cooperatives that has actually given market access to the dairy farmers of the valley. But again, and you only become a dairy cooperative member when you are stagnant or you have a sedentary lifestyle. So these are some of the, the nuts and bolts that needs to be addressed, so that the abundant milk that is produced by these communities, I can say the Gujar communities, can be marketed well. And also there is a need for the sale of milk and wool from these browsing goats and the sheep through off-farm and producer companies, mostly from the Bakarwal youth. Now, how to promote the pastoral entrepreneurship from Jammu and Kashmir? It is that this particular state is more into tourism. Also, they have agriculture department and horticulture department that works so wonderfully. Be it the apple, the dry fruits that is being sold here, or the the kesar that is produced over here. But unless we create small scale and cottage industries for carpet weaving and shawls for the pastoralist, otherwise the wool goes west. Because whenever you are shearing the wool from the sheep and goat, while traveling during the migration, naturally you do not know who to sell, because you're traveling in a no network zone. You don't know who to give it to, and in that process you just throw it away. So we need to see if small scale cottage industries can be developed even in the far off terrains, or the food processing companies can come and take the milk products in this particular area. So if there are handicrafts and wool which is prepared in Samba district by the Bakarwal youth, and it is so beautiful. I'm sure even after the discussion, if we can take this discussion ahead, I can share a few links where the products are so beautiful that you can even order it. Now, dairy products are also there here. Sheep and goat milk is also there. There is ghee and there's kaladi. Now, kaladi is a GI product. That is a cheese, kaladi cheese. So, people who are in the Jammu Kashmir region, especially in the Jammu region, this particular kaladi comes from Udhampur region. And kaladi is a very fat cheese. It's a, if you can just Google and find out, it's like a cheese that you can just fry and put it inside the bread and have it. It's very tasty. as I spoke, that we do have national tribal festivals that happens here, and I must say that the Gujar and Bakarwals have been covered under the ST category in Jammu and Kashmir, and Chopans are the semi-nomadic communities, so they have not yet been categorized. But that is why the tribal ministry also works with them. Like we have Toshali Melas in Odisha, and the national trade fairs that happens. There are food festivals that happens. There's also the tribal literary come cultural festival where the Gujar and Bakarwal community, they come up with their traditional outfit, their traditional culture to showcase. Now, if you have people, those who have been traveling Jammu and Kashmir would have heard about Bangas Valley. So this particular valley is being guarded by the Indian Army, but there are a lot many pastoralists who migrate over there. Now, to increase the economy of this particular area, so there is a Bangas Avam Mela that has begun to encourage mountain tourism in this particular area. But the problem these days that come up is over tourism also. So there has to be a check and balance somewhere so that the environment is not destroyed and also the sustainable livelihood is maintained. So this is during my visit to both. This is in the Satwari plant, which is in of Snowcap, which is the Jammu and Kashmir Milk Producers Cooperative Limited in Satwari in Jammu, and the other one is in Chashme Shahi in Srinagar. Now, as I was talking, that these are the outfits which is there in Gujar Cultural and Research Center, the Gujar Desh Charitable Trust, which is in Jammu. So anybody traveling must visit this place because these have been taken care of by their own community people, and they have been put it in the form of a museum. Now, as I moved to Jammu under 1.5 year ago, I made it a point to meet all the stakeholders, understanding the employment generating schemes that is being carried out by the Directorate of Sheep Husbandry in Jammu. If we look at that, Jammu and Kashmir has two different directories. The Directorate of Sheep Husbandry is different, and the Animal Husbandry is different. So, there are different components they have set up for integrated sheep development scheme for 2022 and 2023, where they have established the sheep and goat units as per the legalities that has been taken up by the directorate for the people who are rearing sheep and goat. Now, this is on a field visit to the Pulwama region or the Tral region, which is in the Pulwama district in Kashmir. And here you can see the Gujar and Bakarwal communities who are living in the deep forests of Tral in Pulwama. Now, this was a one-on-one interaction on behalf of IYRP. IYRP, the RISGSA, as I said, the regional IYRP support group of South Asia, and also the Department of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj. We had all collaborated to have a one-on-one interaction with the Gujar and Bakarwal communities in Kashmir region. So it had all the stakeholders, starting from the researchers, the academicians, the practitioners, the community representatives, everyone, the media, everyone. Now talking about, as we had, Vivekanandan sir speaking about Seva, I would also like to include some of the best practices that has been taken up by Seva in Tamil Nadu. So Korangadu is a traditional pasture land farming system in the drylands of Tamil Nadu. So basically it exists in 500 villages over 50,000 hectares in Tamil Nadu. And this particular grasslands, it has grass, legume, and tree and live fences of different species, and they are conserving the Kalilamdi and Mecheri sheep and the drought breed of cattle, that is Kangayam. So the steps that was taken by Seva was that to promote the pasture lands and the livestock creepers and the groups and association in the two villages that they had taken. So they had basically organized 2 days of workshop during May in 2004 and 2005. And with the coordination with the state district, with the state government authorities, they had actually included the time tested models from the villages so that it can be taken into the mainstream development. And these were actually documented in from the 36 villages in Erode and Karur districts in Tamil Nadu. So these are the documentation that has been done by the Seva group. So where, you know, they have a base of 300 herbal healer profiles in Tamil Nadu, and which was in collaboration with the National Innovation Foundation for preparing the National Register of Innovation and Outstanding Traditional Knowledge. So as we know, you know, the antimicrobial resistance is so much these days. The medicine which used to work for a, for a camel. Just 2 days ago, I was attending a convening meet where a lady who was working with the camels in Rajasthan, she came up to inform that the medicine which was antibiotic, which is working for a camel against a particular disease, uh, 1 year ago is not working now. It's naturally because of the climate change and the antimicrobial resistance that has happened. So which is why there is a need to promote the herbal healing practices for the animals, which needs documentation. So how they have documented, so it's a flow chart of how, Seva has documented the practices from the local animal herders. They had done workshop with the herbal herders, and apart from that, they have gone on to publish the herbal healing practices of animals in their own local language in Tamil for a wider reach. And apart from that, they have also got that validated from the scientific community, then trained people on the animal herbal healing practices, and also gone for networking. Now, if we look at this, there's a advantage also, because naturally when you do a workshop with the healers, the community group involving students, you're also promoting pastoralism as well as the ethno-veterinary practices for sheep and goat. Now, this is a Tamil publication, which is a quarterly publication, which has both live and annual membership on indigenous knowledge that has been documented by Seva. So these are if you are aware about Honeybee Network, so a lot of people can just go and Google what is Honeybee Network. So it's a network that promotes the traditional and the organic products, and the grassroots level innovations also. And these are the different language versions that you can see here. So through participatory research and linking the research station and universities, also networking with the village volunteers and the Department of Animal Husbandry, the Seva has been able to promote the documentation of so many traditional knowledge practices in animal husbandry in Tamil Nadu and across other states also. Now, this is a small case study where, there's a herbal healer who's Velai. He has actually treated around 2050 sheeps against deworming, against diarrhea and fever through different preparation that you see over here, which was prepared with the help of 50 gram of the powder of the ever plant ingredients, which was administered orally by mixing with the aloe vera gel. So naturally, it was seen that the feed increased. There was a weight gain. The diarrhea stopped, and naturally, it is a cheaper alternative source of medicine. So for training the indigenous herbal healing for the animals, so Seva has done, 21 days of training for rural youth. So basically it works more into the rural areas. So they have covered training of the women groups, the cooperative milk society secretaries, and also orientation with the veterinarians of district cooperative milk unions. Now this is the Tamil names of all the botanical plants which are being used against different diseases, the ruminant diseases in the animal husbandry department in the state. Now, talking about the indigenous fodder tree, so the innovator is Madalai Muthu. So he has actually fed 5 kg of the fodder to the goat, and it was seen that there was increase in the milk production, and it was also able to overcome the service stress. This particular organization is also promoting the breeders association in the breeding tract of Vembur sheep, and also the Kachakati black sheep, and also the cattle breeds in Tamil Nadu, the local breeds in Tamil Nadu. So the impact that was found was that the local livestock keepers, the herders were, and women, the gender aspect was also covered. The local knowledge was well documented and through the workshop and training. And they were able to, conserve the in situ and ex situ of the rare medicinal herbs and plants. Naturally, these practices are environmental friendly and were able to be disseminated in the remote areas where there is no communication. And the local herbal healers were also were also recognized and motivated to sustain the indigenous traditional knowledge. Naturally, it helped the students to show interest on documentation, and a network of trained youth and volunteers were able to be created for the local, state, and the national level. Now, this is a second project where I'll be talking about, taken up by, Sustainable Agriculture and Environmental Voluntary Action SEVA in the year 2018 and 19, where they did a goat project. And they were doing goat rearing in 14 panchayats in the Pudukkottai district of Tamil Nadu. And the objective was actually to improve the goat husbandry practices of feeding and healthcare so that they can reduce the mortality rate, and they can develop a package of practices for goat management, which can help in the regular income of the generation of the income. And naturally, women can take good care because it needs a lesser energy to rear sheep and goat as compared to the larger ruminants. And they could see that there were CLV, where the community livestock volunteers were there. These days, we have Pasu Sakhis in the departments, which was initiated somewhere, inspired from the Osmanabad areas in different parts of the country, and from Maharashtra also, where 42 women were selected from 14 panchayats, and they were funded to purchase goats. They were given training on the management, and they were taught to regularly treat the animals using the herbal recipes. Naturally, this involved survey documentation and follow-up. So this is the ethnoveterinary practices of goats, which was taken under the goat project by SEVA, where they had preventive treatment for FMD and blue tongue. There was a tailam or the healing oil and the herbal deworming medicine, and the bolus that were prepared against different diseases. Animal health camps were organized, and the herbal preparation were prepared by the community livestock volunteers, and it could cover 500 beneficiaries at a free of cost level. And later, it was on a low cost basis. So this is a goat manual which has been prepared by SEVA, that has the simple practices of management, the feeding management, the breeding. I'm sure people who are interested for it can get in touch with Vivekanandan sir from SEVA for this. So this is a feedback. People who are able to read it can understand the feedback that was taken from a community livestock volunteer. So in Vettivel village, there was an incidence of diarrhea in 40 goats. So the innovator Rajeshwari, she actually treated the animals using the herbal preparation, like the leaves of neem, guava, the pomegranate, and the turmeric. And in Kodalur of Natanani Purusakadu Panchayat in Tamil Nadu, Srimati Anjamal treated the respiratory problems in goats using the herbal preparation of chili, lime, and kadangathri. So these were some of the feedbacks that were given by the community volunteer, the livestock volunteers. Now, these are the two case studies which have been documented by SEVA, where I would like to describe Shekhar, 48-year-old man who has 5 livestock, and how he has been able to cure the ailments of his sheep and goat through herbal preparation, and he earns good. He also maintains poultry along with him in the Teni district, where he is into the semi-intensive type of rearing in his own backyard. So here you find Muthu Lakshmi, Mrs. Muthu Lakshmi from Erode district in Tamil Nadu. So it has been documented by Seva that she is earning around 30,000 per month, where she has around 14 goats, and she is also into ethno-veterinary practices, where naturally the cost has gone down, the expenditure on medicines have gone down, and she has been able to rear sheep and goat nicely in Tamil Nadu. So if we look at all the discussions that we had either from Gujarat or from Jammu and Kashmir or from Tamil Nadu, we see that there is a training program that is needed for the pastoralist. Though, of course, there are a lot of training programs that are going on in NRC in Bikaner or in Central Institute of Research on Goats in Mathura or also in Avikanagar. But unless, as we discussed, that a pastoral cell has already been developed in the Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying since last January 2023. So a lot of momentum needs to be done so that the pastoralists are brought into the mainstream development. So there's need of more producer companies. So organizations like NABARD, they need to come up to aid, how to create producer companies for goat and sheep milk, because we do not have cooperatives for small ruminant milk. Further cultivation through smart dairying is and needs to be encouraged, and market linkages in these areas. For example, the people living in these areas are at a very are living in the very difficult terrain. So market linkage in broader villages is very important. And popularization and brand marketing of milk of small ruminants, as I spoke, is necessary. So as you know, this year is also International Year on Camels. 2024. So we need to see now how the way camel milk was, publicized. Same the milk of non-bovine milk like donkey, sheep and goat needs to be promoted. Now making use of sheep and goat, as I was talking about the last case study, the dung or the manure of the goat was used by Mrs. Muthu Lakshmi in her own land, in her own area where she is grazing the sheep and goat in her area, and that can be used as a commercial organic fertilizer. Now, restoration of pastoralist artwork is necessary for the community women to sustain themselves when the men are away for migration. Now, sheep and goat marketing here and for marketing is necessary. For example, as I was talking about the experience where the after shearing the wool is being wasted or thrown away, these things need to be taken care of. Education of the migratory community has to be taken care of. Of course, there is a beautiful initiative by Jammu and Kashmir Department of Education to uh, which has been introduced for the mobile education system in this area. So that, education of these people do not go halfway, especially for the children, since the parents move with the livestock. Now, initiative for change in policies is very necessary. And that can only happen when research in this particular area is taken up. Only then we can frame policies for the pastoralist. So conservation of rangelands, fodder resources, water resources, the commons. So basically the pastoralists are herding on the commons. So when I say commons, so commons are like the soil, the land, the water, the fodder resources, the pastures where they are grazing. So it is important that we need to evolve the drought-resistant fodder varieties in the semi-arid region, so that the dependency on pastoralism, even if it goes a little problematic, the livestock owners can depend on this. Proper breeding policies with respect to states. As I said, that pastoralism is a state subject, so all one frame policy will not be able to get adjusted in the policy level. So this needs to be done. Now, implementing the climate change strategies is very important. For example, taking the database of the migratory routes, telling these particular communities about the the weather forecasting, coordinating with the state meteorological department for their secure for their arrangement and accommodation, security when they are traveling. All these have to be taken care of. Now we have a Make in India trademark. So similarly, a pastoral trademark needs to be built so that a proper marketing and the price policy of the animal products can be determined. And extension of climate resilient technologies, as I was talking about the mobile schools in Jammu and Kashmir, in CAT, it can be taken care of. I would take this opportunity to speak a little bit on the pastoral livestock census. So we have this 21st livestock census, which is coming up from September till December. So the pastoral livestock census in the history of 100 years will be conducted for the very first time for the pastoralists. So the outcome of this particular livestock census will be, the pastoral livestock census will be giving a head count of how many livestock come under the pastoral livestock system, how many communities of pastoralists are there across India. I'm sure we can find out how many households are coming under the pastoral livestock system. And this will help us to frame good schemes and policies for these nomadic people, because they are the ones who are least responsible for climate change, but they are the ones who are facing the maximum repercussion of global climate change. So at the end, I would like to conclude saying that whatever study I have been doing or I just saw that the adaptability and interdependence between the pastoralist with the nature come in terms of socio-economic, ecological, and cultural changes. And this cooperation between all these elements can only be expanded or can only be increased through the public policies. And our public policies must aim at the sustainable use of the natural resources. As I spoke in the beginning, that pastoralists already, they cover so many sustainable development, they already meet so many sustainable development goals. So our objective must be to create institutional mechanisms so that the adverse effect of climate change is reduced on them, and we can also ensure the local livelihoods and traditional resource use. Therefore, it is very, very necessary to explore pastoralism for its ecological, hydrological, socio-economic significance for the sustainable livelihood of the pastoralist across the globe in the wake of climate change. So here are some of the webinars that I have been part of on the series towards the International Year of Rangeland and Climate Change, Rangeland and Pastoralist for 2026 on various platforms. So this is a radio talk in the University of Jammu where we talked extensively about pastoralism. And we also had a webinar and on webinar on the regeneration of rangelands in Jammu and Kashmir in collaboration with the Department of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj. So we had a commons convening in just 3 days ago, where people from where all the stakeholders, the community representatives of pasture, coastal lands, forests, livestock, they had all come up to collaborate to decrease the impact of climate change on the tribal, the pastoralist communities. I would like to thank JK Policy Institute for giving me platform to write on this particular community so that we could be, documented, our work could get documented along with Muktar. And as I am speaking about the pastoral livestock census, so as a state UT representative, so we also had a radio talk on the pastoral livestock census where I have been speaking extensively so that no pastoralist is left behind in this census. So these are some of our publications that you can see, the popular articles and the research papers that we had written in IRMA on climate change and on the pastoralist group, and the different abstracts that we have sent in different places. So this is a place in Nal Sarovar where we had gone and we had a wonderful interaction with the women. And I must say that gender cannot be left behind when it comes to any area of work or any area of advocacy. So women are the forebearers. They are the important part of our livestock production system. Thank you very much.